big European Western media outlets, they're all talking about the return of the artifact. It is agreeable that those things were stolen, because when you forcefully take what is not yours, it means you stole it.
Exactly.
All right, and so we had other series of complexities, as a lot of these persons are not ready to return these artifacts. These are figments of it. What has been returned is just a figment of it.
Mm.
We have over 6,000 of these things scattered away.
Wow.
They just brought just two, and these are from University of Aberdeen. I think the other one from yes, that's the Okburu, the cock.
Yes. Cockerel.
So the Benin's artifacts worth hundreds of trillions in naira.
Hmm.
The two that was removed, that was just brought, only two out of over 6,000, worth 2.5 million pounds. The two that was
Each?
brought, one, the cockerel worth 2 million pounds.
Okay.
Why the Unhui Lao? For what the people do not know about Unhui Lao,
I was about to ask that.
the head of the Obas. Now, it's for the cultural ingenuity of the Edo people. They understand that okay, you have to sculpt out the head of Eweka, Oromia, Ehemian, Ogwola, Ewedo. It's cumbersome. You have to have a head representing each of these obas. Then I said no, it's not too comfortable. They needed to have a central head that represents all of these obas. So and that's what we called Unwin Lao. The Unwin Lao depicts every obas of Benin that has reigned. It is the physical representation or the sculptural representation of all the heads of the obas. That's what we refer to as Unwin Lao. So that one worth 500,000 pounds, and the cockerel worth 2 million pounds. If you translate it to naira, that's about 1.5 billion naira.
Wow.
So that is just two. By the time all of these things are returned, if we decide to say, okay, we want to sell off, for example, 30% of them, we have money in trillions that could be of betterment to every Edo sons and daughters. So that shows that at the time the Europeans were stealing these things, they had give a mental picture that these things were barbaric, these things were idolatries. That is the mental pictures they gave to all of us. That's what even some Nigerians or Africans imbibe, that these things were demonic, these things were satanic. Something satanic, 125 years later, is now 2 million pounds. Something we've been advocating for the past 30 years, and they don't want to return it. Don't forget, they say it is demonic, it's barbaric, everything is fetish,
And they're still holding on to it.
and they're still holding on to it. So that means they gave you a mental picture. They gave you a mental picture to believe that these things are bad in order for them to steal it from you. But we now know that these things are not bad. And some of these things are not, some were aesthetics, but most were ritual based. Those ones that are aesthetics were for the beautification of the palace, halls, and different sections of the palace. All right, but some were for ritual purposes. Now, we heard about the little conflict about who do we return the artifacts to. All right, where some people from different parts of the country begins to raise unnecessary eyebrow, and people like us who have become sort of an authority on Benin history and culture, we raise a question that has no answer till date.
Which is?
When the British brought the war invasion 1897, can any Edo man come out now that any of those artifacts were looted in their houses?
No, it was from the palace of the Oba.
Every single artifact was taken from the palace.
That's true.
Because we have to understand the concept of Iguneo, the bronze casters.
Yes.
We have to understand the concept of Igbesama, the wood carvers. We have to understand the concept of Ugboha, the iron makers. These guilds were created for the services of the Oba of Benin.
Exactly.
Now, you can go to different houses in Benin and see bronze works. In the old, it wasn't like that. It has to be the Oba that gives you the permission to hold any of those bronze work. Otherwise, it is a capital crime against the kingdom. So you can't. It is very rare for you to have any of these works in your house, except with the permission of the Oba of Benin. Because these things were for storytelling. If, for example, like the other time, President Muhammadu Buhari went to visit Obaewa during the campaigns for his second term. All right. If it was in the old, where there was no paper and biro, where there was no technological gadgets and equipment, the Oba will invite the head of Iguneo, the bronze casters, to visualize the event. And after doing that, they'll go back to their guild and replicate it in art. That becomes a story. It's only an Igun man that can tell the story of what he has mentally pictured and not expressed through act. So these were storytelling mechanisms used in telling the story around the palace.
So the persons who don't know what Ikun means, you said the Ikun man, it was
I have said it. Iguneo,
Okay.
Elmo,
version of Iguneo, right?
Elmo is bronze.
Bronze. Wow.
All right. Igun is the casters. Igun is guild. Is a guild. Igun Besama. Those are wood carvers. Iguneo, the guilds of the bronze casters. All right. So Igun, it's like a guild. It's like some set of people, and most of these things are hereditary. If you're not an Igun person, you're not
Yes,
an Igun
I
person.
think I went there for one interview one time, and somebody said, I interviewed a lady, she said it's a family business.
It's a
They've
family
been on for
thing.
over 30, 35 years, like they've been passed on to
It's been
children.
passed on.
Yes.
So
That's
it's
true.
more of like a hereditary sort of business. If you're not an Igun person, you're not an Igun person. That is the family that agrees lining or lining. So those are the Igun family. So that's the specialty. That's their services to the kingdom. And
So
today,
that's-
a lot of persons are talking about the bronze casters. We're not even talking about these beautiful scientists that came up with these masterpieces. And if there's an aspect I would like to speak on, is that while we are shining our light on all of these bronzes that were carted away 125 years, we should also look for a way to empower. I would plead with the Oba of Benin and not the state government, because these Igungos is the creation of the Oba of Benin. It's not the state government that created them. I would plead with His Royal Majesty, Oba of Benin, to empower these Igun people, so that the producers of the act that we're celebrating today, they are still there. They can still do better.
Exactly. I was
yes.
coming to that. We have over 6,000 artifacts still
Yeah.
yet not returned.
Yeah.
Now, let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Are you sure we'll be able to get everything back, or a high percentage, a reasonable amount of this artifact back to the kingdom? We just had two.
Yeah.
Now, are we hoping for more?
Well, what you have to understand first is that, like I had said, there is a spiritual force
Okay.
around these artifacts.
Okay.
In Benin, I'm trying to remember that kind of parable in Benin. Ayoga Yumo dia Buenai.
Okay.
So
when
no matter where all of these guys, this artifact travels to, they will find their way back home.
it will take time.
It will take time. So I can guarantee, whether those in private collections, whether those in public collections, you are going to come home. All right, you won't know peace until you return what is not yours. These things were not, some were artistics, like I said,
Yes.
but major part of them were spiritual
Like do hooray.
and all of that.
The Dion stuff, the stick,
So
something.
those acts spiritual, you don't put that in a public museum. That is not where it belongs. When some people were clamoring that we're going to build a museum and all of that, blah, blah, blah. And the Oba said that these things are not, some will be for museums, the artistic ones. You can put
So we
those.
don't have a museum for these artifacts yet, or it's still in progress?
We will build a museum for them. We're in the process of, like I said, there was a disparity on who
Yes.
to the artifact should go to.
Exactly.
So, but it's not even supposed to be contentious.
Why?
The artifact belongs to the owner.
You know, some persons will actually, before I go with my next question, some persons will actually argue with you that yes, it was looted from the palace during the last invasion, 1897, but now we're in a civilized society. And now, at a point, you said some artistic, and those were to be a source of revenue, like you draw tourists and most of others. So why don't we leave the artistic ones to the government? Then the ones that are spiritual purpose should be left to the palace to continue its spiritual purpose. So what do you think?
Very simple. If I picture your question, very simple.
Yes.
We've drawn two lines.
Okay.
One artistic,
One spiritual.
one spiritual. Who draws that line?
The palace.
Exactly.
Because they know the one which is artistic and the one it is. But at the point, I still feel most of us actually 125 years ago, I don't think my grandmom was born then. Yeah, perhaps. Most of us should also have an opportunity to actually see these artifacts.
You will see them. No one is saying that.
Is it
you
when
will.
in a grand collection that
No,
perhaps
no,
all
no,
of
no,
us
no
are
one is
going
saying.
on?
You saw it when it was displayed a few years
Yeah,
ago.
I did.
Yeah, that's is that not good enough?
Now, I mean, the way it's displayed in the London Museum, where persons paid a lot of pounds.
Well,
Yes.
they are building a museum.
Okay.
All right, they're building a museum. Certainly, a museum will be built.
Situated at the palace.
That's where the complications comes from. When the palace comes and says that, I like the museum to be in the palace ground. A lot of people can raise an unnecessary eyebrow. How can you build a museum in that small palace?
It's actually big.
That
It
big
is
palace.
big.
But what people do not understand is this. I'm a child of history. I completely understand what the palace is. They are wise.
The gods are
Understand?
wise.
The gods are wise. The palace, they are wise. What the palace meant that it would be built on the palace museum ground, they are not referring to the present four walls of the palace.
Okay, the one at the King Square.
They are referring to the old palace ground.
Oh, yes.
The
yes.
palace ground that you now know, the one that the British met in 1897 is almost 5 times bigger. There is no Sapler Road there.
Yes.
Those are all palace ground. The Oba Kenzwa Cultural Center was the bedroom of Oba Boramen. Down to the prison ground at Sapler Road.
Junction.
There wasn't Airport Road, there wasn't Sapler Road. The prison ground was also a prison ground that was created inside the palace
Dear weather.
during the Ewedo time of era. So that same prison ground, that's when you had the quarter of the Oba's wives, the Nahen harem. All right? Now, those were all palace grounds. What palace is saying that of all of these old palace grounds, because of the sacrosanctity of these objects, they speak, they will revolt when you take them from their natural habitat. It's just like taking a fish out of water and putting it. It doesn't have, the efficacies of it doesn't work. While we are building a museum, we want to build a museum within the spiritual habitation
The present palace ground now.
where they were thinking, and that's what the palace is saying. Why you people look at the commercial valuation of these things? The palace it's also considering the spiritual valuation of these things as well.
Well, these artifacts are cleaning off in the London Museum.
It's just like
How are they feeling?
well, they weren't feeling well all of these years. I'm sure that when the Okboro and the Winla was returned, I think they'll have a deep sigh of homeliness, that they are home. All right. It sounds very funny, but for those who are very spiritual, understand exactly what we are talking about. So these things has to be properly done. And like I said, a line has been drawn. The line that is drawn, some are artistic, some are spiritual. Who draws that line?
The palace.
The palace. If there are 7,000 artifacts stolen over the world, bring it to the palace. It is the palace that says, this is the artistics, these are the spiritual. So, but the first thing first, when you steal something from someone, when you want to return it, you return it directly to
Where you stole it from.
where you stole it from, except if that person is no longer existing.
You can give to descendants if they're still around.
Yes, no, if the descendants are still around, that means the person is still existing.
Exactly.
If that thing was stolen from my grandfather or my great-grandfather and I'm still alive, it belongs to me. All right, except if my internal line is now wiped out before you can start considering the government. The government does not have any single right. And we have let them
We're all
know.
Edolites. We're all Edolites.
Yes.
You know, I think Benai has something of that.
Well, basically, because you talked about over 6,000 artifacts being stolen like over 100 years ago, and of course, these artifacts are really symbolic. You talked about the partition of these artifacts being symbolic and just for artistic reasons. But basically, we're looking for ways to get these artifacts back.
Okay.
Over 6,000 of them, and just to have been returned. What are the stronger measures we can just put in place to be like, yes, from public compartments or private compartments, we need to get these things back. What are the stronger measures we can put in place to like, okay, yes, we want our stuff back. You stole it from us, you exploited us, now we want it back. We want them to come home. What strong measures can we put in place to ensure that these things return back?
Well, they are not strong measures. We can only
Appeal.
appeal. Yes.
For your own thing again.
Yes.
It sounds funny.
Because they are trying to say that they want to.
They're doing you a favor by
correct
returning
historical
errors,
injustice.
yes.
You get, so they're like, yes, they want to return it. Most countries are not, but if I say just to appeal, it's more like it's safe to say we are trying to beg them to return what you took from us.
Okay, I think I know what that means.
In other words,
It means a man that is stronger than you. You just have to appeal and
You
be
appeal.
humble.
in other words, these things are, they agree that they stole it, but these things are with them. We are not sovereign people anymore.
Yeah, I think you said that earlier.
We can't go to war with them. We can't even take them to the International Criminal Court. These people controls all of these forces.
Come on.
You can only appeal that these things that you stole, making them to understand that these things, you stole them. Please, return them back.
Because they're still invaluable to us.
They are still.
But I think the monetary value to them is a bit higher. What do you think?
They have made,
They're making
if-
so much from this.
if the Benins are to charge them, it's not a matter of that. That's what I said the other time when a group was wrote a letter. I can't really remember the letter. If the Benins are to charge the British Museum, after returning those artifacts, they are supposed to pay us something close to $1 trillion.
So like they returned this to Atipa, they didn't pay anything.
Oh well, I heard they paid some penny.
Heh.
They made, I think the first one I was aware is 4.5 million euro.
That
That one
is a
is not.
penny.
It's a penny. It's
Well,
not enough.
compared to
That
what?
that's for.
It's what
That's
anyways?
not. That's not for the sins or the retribution that they have committed. That one is for to do an archaeological excavation
Okay.
of those palace territories.
Okay.
All right. One of the greatest disservice that we've done to ourselves as Edo people is that we've not really done so much archaeological excavations. The archaeological, that's the history beneath the earth. All right, you have to dig down for you to be able to bring the history of 900, 1000, 1500, 2000 years ago archaeological excavation. So I think they have started the project about 2 weeks ago. The project is going to last for about 2 years to dig some very specific places and be able to unveil a lot of histories buried beneath the ground. That is what they have made some funds available for the one I'm aware. But the one we're talking about is for all of the profits that you've made by stealing all of these things, how much are you going to return? But you know, Adobe Kedi has it's a step after another step. Let them bring these things first. Then before we now start saying that, okay, fine. How do we get some of the profit that you made? How do we get some of these things back? But the German government are ready to bring all of the artifacts that are with them, which is almost about 800 pieces. Yes. Voluntarily this year. So we'll be receiving quite a lot more, close to 1,000. But the bulk of it is in the British Museum.
Exactly. I think
So,
my cousin
and
went there.
and they are quite very stubborn about returning those artifacts. Even when there have been European public Western outcry that you have to return these things. But other museums, the French museum is bulging, the German government has bulged. Well, we haven't heard so much from Latin and Northern American, but we've had quite a lot from the German government, and the French government are also showing an interest in returning some of those artifacts with them. But the British, they are still debating it as to when they will return. Well, because at the time they will return the biggest of all of them, which is the Festa, the Idia head, that could cost hundreds of millions in pounds.
I think we'll go to court for that.
That will cost 100, because I remember then that when the Nigeria government in 1977 wanted to hold the first attack, all right, we wanted to borrow our own thing from the British government. The British had said that we needed to pay 2.5 million pounds.
And we now ended up making a caricature of that thing.
Not a caricature, a replica that you can't differentiate by our.
Replica.
Yes, like
Ouch.
we needed to. The government, the Nigeria government was actually considering and paying the British government that 2.5 million pounds. As at that time in 1977.
Imagine now.
So some people told them that you're stupid. The guys who made these things, they are still alive. They can do a perfect work. Like you won't know the difference, because they were the one who created. It's just like a guy who manufactured this cup. If you ask him to manufacture this cup again, it does the same thing. It's just that one has now become more of like an antiquity. It has more relevance.
Exactly.
It's not as if it's not the same thing. It's the same people who did it. It's just like an iPhone, the manufacturing company of an iPhone, asking them to manufacture another iPhone. Yes, that's their job.
Yeah, it's true.
That's exactly what it was. A Mokbai who did that.
Wow,
They manufactured a replica of that, and it's not a matter of semblance. Practically the same thing, only separated by time. All right, so that is how greedy the British can. Okay, borrowed all this thing, let's use it to do for the international festival.
Our own team.
Yes, I want things like bring money to borrow.
Pay that money because it can be this subtle form of message that
We own it, you guys. Yeah, exactly like that. You borrowed it. You only could borrow from the owner. All right. So thank God we didn't even borrow it at that time. It seems like well, we own it. That's why we borrowed it to you. So these are some of the issues. But what we're very happy about is that we started to see the green light, and all of these things is happening right during the reign of Obaiwari II and during our lifetime. Exactly. We can't be able to tell kids that we were there when so of these artifacts came through. If there are still some still scattered all over the world, it becomes the next generation of the Edo people to also advocate for these artifacts to be returned to their place of origin. And that, to me, it's most interesting. So I feel that no matter the unnecessary bickering
Yeah.
of any state government or whatever, all right, we will not allow for our artifacts to be stolen for the second time.
I
Y-
don't want to come in here because right now there's this dispute between the state government and the palace.
mm.
Don't you think this will stall or rather jeopardize plans for the return of the remaining artifacts?
And like they're not even organized. There's no
Yes.
unity. So why return it to them to bring more chaos?
Because since they are, yes, okay, we'll return these artifacts, let's take Germany for example, but since there's this back and forth between two bodies, it could be that, okay, yes, we want to return it, but maybe we shouldn't. Again, don't you think this back and forth from palace and the state government will just stall all plans?
Well, the palace is not going back and forth.
Status.
The state is trying to go back and forth. There was an agreement between the palace and the present-day state governor that our palace, we have the evidence. The name of the museum will be called Benin Royal Museum. That's how it's supposed to be. It's called British Museum. You name the museum according to the people that thing was stolen
The
from.
Benin people. Yes.
That was the agreement far back in 2016, 2017. The only for which we hear in 2021 that it's no longer should be called that. It should be called Edo State, Edo MOA, Edo Arts and of West Africa Arts and Culture, MOA. Without
You know, Nigerians are very
without
funny.
without consulting with the custodian of it. You want to set up a committee
I heard about that.
in Lagos headed by an Igbo person to receive an artifact that belongs to the Edo people. That is the biggest insult you can give to the Edo people. This has nothing to do with the Alba. If you're advocating for the Edo people, that it belongs to the Edo people or the Benin people, how many of the Benin people do you have a roundtable discussion with for you to come up with that conclusion? Did you discuss with their spiritual and traditional head, the Oba of Benin, before you came with that conclusion? But if you feel that you have the state government, you have the power of the state government, but the Benins have always had one thing for them. We have the power of always defending what binds us, which is the palace. The same power that made the present-day state governor the state governor is the same power that can also ruin any governmental power. So we don't want to go through all of that, but it is clear because the present monarch is a diplomat, completely understands how these things work. If you're having a relationship between a country and a country, the policies created should be between a government and a government.
Exactly.
If the state governments are not willing to abide by the agreement that he once had with them a couple of years back, then let me use the federal government, who is in the best position to even negotiate.
Yeah, I was coming to that. What's their role in all of this?
Yes. That's the role. The role is for them. They are the one. If the British Museum is bringing the artifact, they are not going to give it to the Oba of Benin directly. They are going to give it to the federal government. It is the federal government that was supposed to give it to the state government on behalf of the Oba of Benin. Why the state government will not hand over it to the Oba of Benin. And the Oba of Benin will not decide what should be done with these artifacts. But now, since the state government are not willing to pass through, what the Oba of Benin is diplomatic in the years of his diplomacy now said, okay, federal government, handle this thing for me. Whenever you get any of these things, bring it directly to me. You don't have to bring the state government into this matter anymore. So that settles. So they are no back and forth. Like I said, I'm just trying to let you know they are no back and forth. If it is now, which we don't think, nothing is going to make us change our mind on that arrangement. So the state government is completely out of this equation. If the present state governments are not willing to construct the museum from us, In 2 or 3 years, they are out of there. Any incoming state government will do that. So all artifacts that are coming are going to go through the federal government to the Oba of Benin, and we're going to keep it when we now have a state government that is willing to work with the palace. Then we'll know some of these artifacts that we will hand over to them to build a world-class museum to house this artifact.
Okay, speaking.
Meanwhile, in conclusion, we already have a portion within the old palace ground that has been earmarked over 12 years ago for this project. So we have foresaw that these things will come.
Okay.
So the space to build the world-class museum is already available. So let nobody gainsay or say some certain things that are not there.
Okay, I want to know about the funds to build the World Palace Museum,
Yeah.
and definitely some of the artistic, the artifacts returned, apart from the spiritual ones that will be set aside for spiritual purposes. The revenue that will be generated from this museum, what will be the purpose? Is it for the betterment of the adults, the
Yeah.
beings, or it will be directed to somewhere else? Because I think, actually, I can't really say I know. I think the state government had a plan too, just like the palace had a plan. Everybody's in interest of the beings, of the Edo people, because we all own the artifact to be funded.
No.
Because there is no king without the people, and there's no government without the people. So now, what is the end game for the people?
No, while we understand that there is no king without the people, but we should also understand that there is a father and there is a son. Why the father gave birth to the son is completely different from the father. For the fact that my father gave birth to me does not mean that all of his properties, I own them while he's still alive.
Okay.
What belongs to the Oba of Benin belongs to the Oba of Benin.
I thought it belonged to the people.
No. What
No,
belongs?
I will set aside his wives, but I think everything that belongs to the palace belongs to her.
What belongs to the Oba of Benin belongs to the Oba of Benin.
Okay.
He himself can say that it belongs to the people.
Okay. Only he can
For
do
the
that
fact
independent.
that the Oba of Benin cannot also come to claim your property.
Really?
Yeah, he can't come to say that the house built by your father, he owns it.
Okay.
Contextually, you can say yes, Oba Nyamiya.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, no,
when you were-
contextually, you can say Oba Nyamiya. That's contextual. It's just a literal expression of saying that he is sovereign.
Over everything.
But realistically, he doesn't own your house.
No.
Just like realistically, you don't own his own properties too.
Yes, but it's the ruler of the people.
Yes, that's what we're saying. And you are his people. If you're Oba, if you're Do. There are things that are exclusive for him. There are things that should be shared. We are not saying that the artifact is going to swallow them.
No, so the money made from the museum is going where?
You don't get. We haven't even talked about. It is not something we are supposed to be discussing now.
I think this question is on the lips of every Edos out there.
No.
I don't. They are
it-
building museum. They are bringing the artifact. Oh, come on, London Museum. They make money from it.
Yeah.
So what are we using it for?
No, that becomes, like I said, there was an agreement in 2016 or
With the
2007
state
with the state government. All of these things should be fine-tuned. How many percentage goes to the state government to develop the human capacity? Is it as a form of scholarship? Is it about infrastructural development? Is it to create industries? And some will go to the royal house.
Yes,
All right,
definitely.
now, but the question is, why are we talking about how much is going to come out from that?
No.
Why are we talking about how much revenue these things is going to bring? Why the thing that is coming is not even here? The Edo people, let me not say the Benin people, the Edo people are being greedy. The few Edo people having that thought are being very greedy
Okay.
about these instances. Am I the artifact that people are already talking about? How
Have
do
you
we
heard
share
it?
these things?
Gradually they are bringing it. So you have to prepare. You have to prepare for a long-term goal.
The thought is there. That is why there was, like I said, there was an agreement between the palace and the state government.
Okay, now they are
The
no longer in
state-
good terms. So what happens?
The state government breached that agreement.
Okay, so the palace.
If the
now-
state government is willing to go back into the negotiation, it has to be not on his terms.
So if he's not willing now, so what is the end goal?
The end goal is very simple, like I said.
For the betterment of the people?
No. It's very simple. Everything will still be for the betterment of the people. The end goal is, if you are not willing to work with the palace to make this thing viable to the people, all right, we will wait. After 2 years, the present government will leave.
Sir, sorry to cut you short. You said something earlier. You said we are expecting more artifacts this year.
Yes.
So where are we going to keep them, on our chest or in front of the table?
I don't understand.
No, we should start.
No, I don't understand. That's where people start to make a lot of mistakes about things like this. When the British came to steal these things, where did they get them from? Were they inside a cold room? Were they inside the show glasses?
Okay, but we're talking about the access.
Those artifacts were already created hundreds of years before they were in some were already as old as 600 years or 800 years before the British came to steal them. How were they preserved? Where were they kept?
But you can't say the methods of preservation are that.
No.
Even the method of preservation in foreign country now here is totally different. To be candid, this is the ancient city of Benin, where things are done.
No. I don't understand. I don't understand. How do you even equate this matter in the first place? This artifact,
can't take care of
this artifact has been with us.
Put them in a proper place where the Benis can actually, the adults can actually assess this.
The proper place as of now
is the palace of the Oba for the now.
For now.
Yes, I think I want to hear that because everybody cannot assess the Oba's palace.
Yes, and you know, first of all, we know the value. At that 125 years ago, nobody knew that. Okay, this particular this artifact will be 2.5 million pounds.
If you didn't say it, I wouldn't even know about the value.
So right now, I can say vividly that a lot of persons are involved in this matter. Yes, I say this artifact was stolen from the Benin Kingdom. Of course, we are still involved. But yes, the people, let me not say diaspora, a lot of persons, different bodies, they know the value of this artifact. In fact, I won't say they open our eyes to see that.
And they also fought for it too.
They also fought for yes, it was stolen. But what we're trying to say is yes. Earlier, prior to this time, you said a museum will be built, a place will be built to keep this in. Don't you think preparations should should be going so that yes, when these persons are coming in, you get when these artifacts rather are coming in, there is a place, they're not just somewhere, there is a place, and over time, persons will have access to this beautiful work of art.
Okay. The question that you've asked is this: you want a physical display of this artifact. Beautiful. No one is saying that there is not going to be a physical display of it. Inherently, what you're saying is that if the British or whatever government are willing to bring this artifact as of today, for the fact that there are no place to physically display them, we should tell them to hold on to it first. Or otherwise,
no, they shouldn't.
or otherwise, and that
we're
means
fighting
that means
we should be ready to receive what we're fighting for.
Okay, that's conclusive. If we're ready to receive what we've been fighting for, let them bring it. It will be in the palace.
For now.
For now, pending on when the museum will be ready.
Okay, are we having external bodies, international bodies supporting us the building of this palace, this museum in the physical palace terrain that will habitate these artifacts?
Well, like I said, there's a breach of contract, there's a breach of agreement. There was an agreement that was agreed by both parties until one party decided to breach them, otherwise they were supposed to be international supporters. Okay. It is easier for the state government to get international support than the royal house to get international support. But now the state government is not willing to have the Oba, the real owner or the rightful owner, determine the terms and conditions. They want to determine the terms and conditions. And it's only very unwise of any Oba or king to allow someone who never knew how these things were made, for the purposes these things were made, to determine the terms and conditions. Most especially when you have both agreed on these terms and conditions a few years back, only for you to come. Anybody can say.
Anybody
So I can actually walk to the palace and like, what's the head of that one? That's the head of the Oba in combination.
No, that one is very spiritual. You're not
Okay,
even
Fumi
supposed to
cannot even
access
go
that one.
close to the.
That's Winlao.
Okay,
It's
Winlao.
supposed to be at Aweroba.
Okay, now it has gone spiritual on another level.
Exactly. Right now, we should continue like this. This conversation will never end. For right now, we have to wrap up the show. What are your last words?
I believe strongly the artifact belongs to the Edos, and like our guest said, it's at the palace for the now. And also, sir, please, you're very close to the royal house. Plead with the Oba or the persons in charge, the committee in charge, to please at least make this thing, even if the museum is not ready, but there should be, let's say, subtle measures on access to these artifacts.
No,
Because a lot of persons will want to see, I want to feel. I want person I see, I want to feel.
Okay.
Basically, it should be, yes, I know that sounds spiritual, your funeral, tradition comes into all of that, but we should at least feel the stuff we've been hearing about.
A quick one, please.
Okay.
Since all of these artifacts has been scattered all over the world, have you gone to see any of them?
I saw them in the glass.
Okay. Fine.
Now it's back home. Let me feel it. It's like my brother is far away.
On the
Now
day
it's
on the day of return of this artifact, it will be publicly displayed for all of you to see. So if you want to go and feel and have a closer look,
I think the last one was actually sort of publicly displayed.
you know,
but
not sort of.
too
It was
much,
publicly displayed.
but there
You
was
can-
no physical touch now.
I still want to.
And
Why would you?
I want to
touch?
feel the cockroach like.
Even-
I heard there's a lot of rumor like the thing if you just touch it, you just make noise. So I wanted to feel and experience it. You know,
No,
that is
maybe-
almost compared to real gold.
But I don't think that even if you go to any of these museums all over the world, that you can't touch it.
Yes.
Oh,
And
and
now,
that's
now
what
it's
you're
not in the
saying.
museum. We have it in the open space. Let's
No,
do the
no.
local thing. This is the
It's-
ancient
it's-
city. We do things the old way.
No, it's in the safest place, more safer than your British museum.
Wow. All right.
Okay.
This is where we wrap up and call it a day. Oh, guys, thank you so much for watching. In terms of our precious cultural heritage, 2 out